Professor Kim was a senior designer for Jeitek, and he designed the Queen Jenuvia. And at the SHI, he also designed ocean-going ships.
네. 안녕하십니까.
Good afternoon. I am Su-hwan from the Industrial Design Department of Keimyung University. I am very delighted as a designer myself to find that the marine design section has been installed as part of the WOF. I would like to present on designers' role and strategic response in the future marine industry. As mentioned before, in the 21st century, the world is experiencing in automobile, electronics, and architecture a design innovation as well as technological innovation. But for ships focused on the ocean industry, its design is not advancing. Although Korea has a number of large shipyards and is a shipbuilding powerhouse, the design capability is not fully applied to ships. For more than 20 years, I have designed ships, but I have met only a few ship designers in Korea. Of course, ship design requires special criteria, standard, and construction method, unlike the on-land building. But development of talents is also very important. Hundreds of large ships are built every year, but why is not the design sector more active? Of course, we must focus on the particular purpose of ships, and design was not an area of focus. But then Korean shipyards have more than 25 years of building large passenger ships. But for large passenger ships, ships are ordered to companies and not to individuals. For large car ferries, $1.5 trillion plus is the cost for building a car ferry. From their construction company all the way down to the workers, they will be hired to meet the needs of the client. And the shipbuilding company will choose the design. Unlike automobiles that are well-performing, that sell well, ships are not like that. Then how do designers respond, and what are their roles? Let's go through the changes, the trends of the ship design, and the need for shipbuilding design. As mentioned before, Korea has 25 years plus of experience in designing large passenger ships. Hyundai, Daewoo, Samsung Heavy Industries are the main shipbuilders. They provide ships to Blue Star Ferry, Minoan of Greece, Norfolk, Stena, and Kotonaf. Most of the European large shipping companies' ships have been built in Korea. So Korea has the world's best construction capabilities. Also, after basic design, there are cruise projects that did not really be built or not built. For example, Utopia Residence Cruise by Samsung Heavy Industries because of the financing issues and because of a down cycle in the shipbuilding, and this was one of the last remaining unfinished projects. Rather than living, this cruise is focused on travel, and it requires repetitive designs, same design of cabins that repeat over throughout the cruise ship. So for a Korean type of cruise ship, this was a very well-fitting. It is a 100,000 ton grade, a large cruise ship, and it was going to be built as a type of lotting out the spaces to the users, like an apartment building. So there are two major changes in the paradigm of ship design. Large shipping companies are focusing on carriers, and medium-sized companies are starting to design the passenger ships. And secondly, second-hand vessels used to be retrofitted into these ships, but new builds are the new trend. it was very unfortunate to see these old ships go to waste, but now we are seeing more new builds and companies are placing new orders. And in terms of design, yard architects, so overseas designer and yard constructions were working in coordination, but they started to design the ships themselves. So in passenger ship design, what is the role of a designer? Before going into that role, let's look at the total design process for a passenger ship. First, we need to go through the concept design to design the concept and choose the material. This is when the interior grade will be determined before contract is signed. So this has an impact on the steps to come. And then basic design by the yard engineer will be done. Accommodation arrangements and rules and regulations will be done here. And this is where most of the issues arise. And third, based on the basic design, we go into the interior engineer step of shop drawing. And finally, based on the drawing and fitting the quality standards, the yard will start building the ship. This is very different from other construction. For construction companies new to this market, this is a very difficult process of building ships to design. So as you can see on the right-hand side, Korean market is rarely focused on the right-hand side only. The basic drawing will be done with the yard engineer, and interior quality and design is presented, and yard benefits should be also maximized by the yard designer. Then what are the problems? An architect, by architect I mean the designer hired by the ship owner. So architect is the overseeing designer who is involved in the design, the material selection, and the quality of construction. The architect has a huge impact on the cost of building. And so a shipyard in building the ship cannot just be based on building the ship with their construction capability. They need to shift their construction method to fit the needs of the ship owner. But the main decision making is always done by architects. So, to elaborate on the construction method, ships, unlike on land architecture, are built on the dry dock. With the prefabrication, on board everything is just simply assembled. This way we can reduce the construction period, prevent accidents, and reduce cost. But for interior designer, everything has to be meticulously approved by the ship owner, and this is a huge burden in work. Secondly, Korean passenger ships quantity is limited, and so designer and constructors are leaving the market. It is very difficult to build up the know-how. The drawing is done in very much detail to help build the ship and to raise productivity and reduce drawing papers. Overseas, the trend is quite different in Korea. This is what is used to build a passenger ship in Korea. The designers are drawing the blueprint in very much detail to hand over to the shipyard. And one of the key disputes with ship owners is this. On the left is the 2D rendering, and on the right is the actual construction. So they are very similar. Sometimes designers' 3D graphic rendering is different from the actual building. So a realistic design and meticulous building capabilities are required so that the rendering is similar to the actual. Finishing materials also need much knowledge. Finishing material for ships are limited. To raise quality, and lower cost, we need extensive experience and knowledge in various materials. These are a number of foreign vendors, and you need to find the right one with the right price. And ship transporting and storing materials also need a whole set of knowledge. So where do designers use their skills? They can use their skills in other areas, such as Royal Institution of Naval Architects that hire new designers. Without elevating the level of design, it is difficult to hire the right people. So cruise ships also offer spaces for entertainment. So these are the interiors of the commercial ships, the merchant ships, designed by Korean designers. And merchant ships are weak to vibration, and there are many limitations, but the design is done very well. And designers have made sure that the design is no less than what is in the passenger ships. So I think that we have the right level of designing capabilities to be applied elsewhere. The passenger ship accounts for less than 5% of what's ordered total, only 2% in terms of volume. So although number of passengers are growing, the material development is not catching up. Recycling the materials, for instance, falls short of onshore building. So based on the recycling and life cycle of materials from production to recycling, the materials should be seen from an eco-friendly perspective and managed accordingly. Korea has very little experience with cruise ships, but smaller cruises rather than car ferries are in operation. For example, this is a Queen Jenuvia. It goes from Mokpo to Jeju. It's a night ferry. It was funded by the Korean government, and it is one of the largest ships ever designed by Korea. And it was in 2020 awarded as the Ship of the Year in passenger ships by the Royal Institution of Naval Architects. So cruise ships sounds very large and has very meticulous design. It seems daunting, but Korea is already doing well for designing the cruise ships. We just don't have that experience with ships. From a technological point of view, ferries are now no easier than cruise to design. Because ferries move at a high speed, they have high noise, but they use electric motors. They have a cutting-edge stabilizer and POD system. So compared to ferries, crews have their advantage in designing. For marine design revitalization, I would like to propose this ambitious plan. For Korean type of cruise order placement, first of all, as a high value-added ship, we need to shift to high added value ships. The ship price is continuously going down, bringing down the benefits. And secondly, we can develop a large pool of talents in the Busan, Ulsan, and Gyeongnam area. We will be able to revitalize the shipbuilding employment. And we can also target tourism as well. Of course, nationally built cruise ships can increase employment and a great opportunity in the market. We can choose our own materials, and compared to what is done now, we will be able to reduce costs significantly. 30% of the ship price goes to interior design, and so this will have a huge impact in bringing down the cost. So we can expect to have a far better than expected design. We have more than 400 national planes, which enable overseas travel and generate revenue. We will be able to create jobs and develop a pool of talents in the airline business. For cruise, the main industry is shipbuilding. Italy, Germany, And countries like these have great shipyards, and Carnival, AIDA, cruise companies like them are both building and operating cruise ships, generating continued revenue. And high added value ships, despite the chasing catch up by China, is still leading the world. So operation and design, if they go together by a single company, it is much safer and reliable. But Korea has potential to do both. Korean tourism has high value and added by the K contents. Recently, Korea's national status is going higher. We have a beautiful nature and great tourism destinations. This is the number of passengers coming into Korea through cruise ships. And if we can add more Korean passengers, the numbers will be much larger. This is just an example in my mind. Potential cruise routes. 50, 60,000 ton medium ships can be built in Mipo, Daejeon, and Hangjin ports. 2 medium cruise ships built would mean that in the shipbuilding to tourism industry, an infrastructure will be generally developing, and this will be a very important decision made. For example, from Incheon, Shanghai, Taiwan to Okinawa, we can have a Western Sea cruise, and then from Busan, we can go for Japan, Russia, and more in the East Sea. So these would have high value as products. Convenient transportation and shipbuilding can be done at the shipyards. We have a great pool of talents in the Busan, Ulsan, Gyeongnam area. We already have a shipbuilding cluster that is global level in Busan. If we can build cruise ships nationally, then we will be able to make use of the existing conditions for sustainable development of the shipbuilding industry. Last but not least, on training of human resources, Korea Ship Design Development course is non-existent, which is quite ironic. So in universities, shipbuilding, furniture design, interior design, material and method training is provided at my university. And this is a very important part. When you think of design, you would think of drawing on a sketchbook. But in building a passenger ship, not just the design, but there are other elements to consider. The engineering elements, because ships are floating on water, so it is very weak to noise and rolling. There are strict regulations that apply to the industry as well. So we need to familiarize ourselves with all those elements to build the right ship and design the right ship. So by the roles, we need different sets of designers. In shipbuilding, designers has a number of different roles to play, from drawing, designing, to construction supervision. But pure design only takes up 15% of that role. Drawing takes up the largest share with 45%, and construction 40%. This can be used for domestic ferry building, international ferry building, and cruise ships. But Korean design has had little demand compared to the whole market. But the demand is going up. Once again, I am delighted to see that the design session has been prepared as part of the WOF. Thank you.